All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to MVP Office Hours. Today's November 3rd, 2023. Do you know what episode this is, Dale? Because I sure don't. Is it like 2008?
251, I think. I think the last one was the
251?
last
Wow.
one was the quarter millennia.
All right, 251 episodes, but there's only 250 that'll be on the website because number one is missing.
At the time
All
of
right.
recording, only 249. This
Okay.
would be 250.
All right. As you all here may or may not know, MVP Office Hours is on the first and third Friday of most months. You can find Dale and Squire and I on LinkedIn. And you can find MVP Office Hours on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling that these days. But we wanted to welcome you. Squire is not able to join us today because he's got work things. And my friend Dale is here also. Dale, wave to everybody, say hi.
And I'm going to drop at 1/2 past also for a work thing.
It's a juggling act. It's a lot of fun. If you want to find out about more things, the success community is going to be where you want to post questions that you might have for us, because you can crowdsource instead of sending emails to us, even though the email works, right, Dale? The email still works, right?
I was just in it about 20 minutes ago, so I think
Yeah.
it does.
Let's not use that though, because then it's just Joy, Dale, and Squire. It's not all the folks that check out our space. All right, so we've got, oh, here we got our welcome. So our next call is the third Friday, November 17th. As you know, registration is the bit.ly/MVPOH. Register and you'll get a reminder when the meeting comes through. Recordings are on YouTube, right? Right.
Per my text.
Dale or Clayton, if you have that link, you can drop it in the chat now. We ask that everyone share their experiences, insights, and recommendations with the group because we consider everybody here an MVP for going forward and learning more about everything they may or may not know. And if you have questions, post in the chat and we'll get you lined up so that we know who's going next. Feel free to use the reactions, raise your hand, and we will, we'll try to keep track of everyone. Feel free to post any links in the chat, resources, answers. We do recommend sharing your screen if you have questions. But please, 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 we are recording. We are sharing with people all over the place. Don't share any private data or information because it's not fair to those people who own that information. And we also want to have fun and be informal. And we just ask that you keep it professional and positive because we don't want anyone to get in the hot seat because of things they said here. And so that's that. Upcoming community events. We have Hire a Dreamin', French Touch Dreamin', and Dreamin' Kosovo. And then upcoming Salesforce events, we have Seattle, Chicago, Atlanta, and New York. The world tour is going to be stopping in for a day at a time. Am I hearing things, or is someone has a conversation in there?
I think we may have some people on mute that are
Okay.
not on mute that should be, but
okay. Sorry. Thank you for whatever that was. Here we are. So this is what we heard about in the last 2 weeks in the success community. Nominations are open for the MVP class of 2024. If you know somebody who's made an impact in your life, in your career, in your space, in the Salesforce ecosystem, please, please, please nominate this person. It is a big form and there's a lot of questions, but you can open it up and go through it and figure out what information you need and talk to the person that you need to get the information from, and you can submit your nominations. We also have Sarah. I don't know if Sarah's on the call. Sarah does not appear to be on the call at this point. She has got to follow up on her reactive screens and flows from last time. And then Todd, I think Todd's on the call. So we'll talk about his emojis question. And then Lizelle, is Lizelle on today? She is not, but she was asking about Health Cloud and relationship card filtering, it sounds like. And then Jennifer is on, and she's got a question around dynamic forms. And so we'll start with Todd, and then we'll go to Jennifer, and then whoever's in the chat will go through that next. And then if Sarah and Lizelle come in, we'll be able to wrap up with them. So Todd, do you want to go through your question?
Well,
That sounds like a yes.
yeah. About a year ago, we tried to identify some emojis and try to eliminate them from text fields, which was an
Mhm.
eye opener for me because in my former lives, text fields are text, no graphics of any kind. But Salesforce
Mhm.
text fields allow emojis and other graphics.
Right.
So I found a regex from eons ago that was working great, except it eliminated like, I don't know, radio buttons or not radio buttons, I'm sorry, bulleted lists and things like that.
Hmm.
So I compensated for that, but now apparently the list of emojis keeps growing. I was looking for a new way to get rid of those. And I know this is coming into play with data movement to other systems in the company, over which I have no influence, and I should probably not say any more.
Yeah, if you don't want to say anymore, I will.
But
Because if we
emojis are
can,
not moving to other systems is what the problem is. And
so-
they put an emoji in a text field and it blows up the data movement.
So Todd, the first question I have for you is are you looking for a way to extract the ones that are there or prevent future ones from coming in?
However we want to do it, we just have to not allow them in those text fields in Salesforce. So right now, when it blows up, the person who entered them gets a phone call, or someone with admin privileges goes in and removes the emojis
All
and
right.
allows the data to flow. So
So-
we'd like to prevent them from coming in if at all possible on the
So what-
Salesforce side.
So you said like a year ago, I remember this very,
No,
very
yeah.
well.
let's turn back
Um,
the dial of destiny to January 2018. And you can probably even look back on the YouTube of our calls here, because you might have a frustrated young Stuart Deal who got online and talked about the admin blog that Salesforce delivered a message saying, please use emojis in your fields to delight users and attract adoption. To which I said, that is utter bullcrap, and there's no way I will allow it in my org. This is a bad idea. Please don't do this.
that wasn't the episode I was thinking of. I think it's pretty close, actually.
And
So
Stuart, your solution was?
no,
Dude, don't tell your
don't delight your users.
don't promote this into your org. Don't train your users to do this.
Well-
Salesforce, please don't allow this to be put into text fields.
We have never promoted it. They found it themselves.
So
All right, so it's rich text fields though. Are the
No,
only ones
it's-
they
No,
can
it's
do it
text
anywhere?
fields.
All
It's
of
text-
them.
Text fields
text
allow it
fields.
also.
It's
behind the scenes, an emoji is just a string of characters.
Yes.
Same thing as HTML when you try to present an ampersand, like it's just string characters. What I was going to ask Todd is, so yeah, I remember us coming up with a regex solution for you, whatever. What is that doing for you today? Is it just identifying where it's already been entered? Did you put it in a validation rule to block it? And
It's-
what is the actual regex statement that you wrote? Because I think the thing that I have actually thought about that a couple of times of just how to identify what is an emoji in text. Is there anything, knowing that the list does forever grow with every iOS and whatever release, what is the actual syntax to indicate emoji that are you able to hone in on its framework instead of maybe like a specific list? Or what does that look like as your starting point?
Don't know. I'm trying to get to the custom object that
To the
has
link
that
I put in the
validation
chat.
rule.
To the link I put in the chat. There's an article on Medium that came out a little while ago that talks about a validation rule to reject emojis with a regex validation. And I know how you feel about validation rules, Dale Squire.
That's the
whoever
one
you
I
are
have.
today.
This feels like a valid use because you're trying to restrict a specific string of text because there is a downstream rule. We like the business has identified we can't have emoji passing through systems. And if Salesforce is a source for any
George.
downstream
but-
system,
But this works for like forms and for users to enter, but does this work for like data coming in through Marketing Cloud and through other emoji ridden sources?
That's what I ended up with, what I just posted in the chat. The trouble is the list just keeps growing.
Yeah,
and
I-
there's
Well, it
things
looks
in the
like-
middle of
can-
it
You
So
can,
that we need, like the
mean,
bulleted lists. They
I'm
allow
on,
those.
I'm on Todd's side here. I say down with this forcing the admins to create regex when you don't know where this.
well, and what I'm saying is like I don't know how to read this specific statement at all, other than to assume is U00A9 a specific emoji, is U00AE a specific emoji.
Yes.
Okay. And that's
Yes.
what I'm wondering is there a way for you to hone down that list to just be if you find a certain string of characters like the, I don't know, // if that's the indicator that's an emoji, then you don't have to list the whole thing. Like chances are you're not going to find // anywhere else because it's characters, not like letters to spell a word. That could help keep it scalable to get ahead of any future emoji, because I doubt they're going to change the construct of emoji.
mhm. So
Do you actually have an opportunity to simplify your statement to make it still?
Not that I
you have an
found,
opportunity
that's
to
why
just
I was
simplify it to
asking.
say if you find whatever the indicator of emoji is versus list out all the emoji.
Andrew's got a comment,
Ooh.
just allow
That's an
standard
idea.
characters as opposed to fun characters. But sometimes the fun characters need to be there.
So
Yeah.
I hear you, but I did a whole actual, this was part of a Dreamforce presentation a few years ago. You got to understand the construct of an if statement. If exception is met, then do this. Like you specify explicitly what the exception situation is. Otherwise, everything else, let it go. If you listed out every single good character, that feels awful. Versus if you know, and again, I don't know that // is the specific indicator, but if you know that there's one specific set of characters that then indicates this is emoji, go hone in on that. Specify that, because when else, anywhere, are you going to have // in text?
I'll go see if I can attack it from that direction. See if I can find something common. I'll let you know, Stuart.
I think that the structure of growth is organized, but I don't think it's organized enough for you to be doing what you want to do. Because you said there are some like bulleted lists you want to leave.
Correct. They seem to go through fine on the data movement.
Okay, so the catalog is monstrous.
Yes, it's like 3,800 right now. I found that
Yeah.
catalog.
Well, yeah, but I'm wondering if you could create a reference table of the stuff you don't want, which is the 800 something common emojis that are on a phone, and then say these ones are okay. If it's on this list, these are the ones that are not okay. So don't permit that or just strip it.
But you don't want any emoji, right, Todd?
Right.
And that's why I
Right,
was
because the
focusing
downstream
in on,
systems
like,
can't handle it. They put it in an actual text field that can't handle the emoji codes.
and
Oh, I
that's
thought-
why I was wondering if it's 0 emoji allowed. If there was a text indicator like, or leading indicator like the // because we have a rule that says no emoji ever, can you hone in on that instead of maintaining a list or what's in, what's out? We know the rule is don't let any of it in. So what's the common element across all emoji? Probably those first couple characters.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the codes. Yes,
Well,
Sarah, the
it's-
problem on stripping it out during the integration process is it kills the integration software.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was a little
somebody
late.
has to take the
So
burden of it. Yeah.
Either that, or I don't know if they could change the character set they're using. I don't know what they're using over there. They're actually using a tool called Jitterbit.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's the integration tool or if it's the receiving system, exactly where it all breaks, but it just stops them dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to have them do that, Sarah. Just let them strip it if they can't handle it and go from there. Ooh, that'll make their day if I ask them that question again. It's Friday. That'll be
make
fun.
it someone else's problem.
Yeah, Salesforce is working fine.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So, all right. Well, you've given me a couple ideas to go look at.
Place to start, right?
Yep. Just
All right.
needed a little more direction. Get out of my tunnel.
All right. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Todd. That was a good one.
There'll be a day when we get rid of the emojis, and we'll also get rid of confetti, and then I won't have anything to complain about. Thank you.
Stuart.
Why do you hate confetti? What did confetti?
Unnecessary junk in the software. Let's just keep it to business and get rid of this.
Stuart, I'm covering you up with the chat right now. That makes me sad, Stuart. Come on. Let me have a little fun. All right. So Sarah, we're gonna circle back on you. Jennifer, you're here.
Yes.
Talk
Thank
to
you
us
so
about
much.
your dynamic forms questions.
Yes, so I've been trying to get IT to implement dynamic forms for a few years, but we went through a huge company merger, which essentially slowed everything down. We have a large sales organization. I don't know, something like 400 reps, and we have a huge account page, as many companies do, right? So what we want to do is improve the sales user experience as much as possible, as we all want to do. I represent sales, but I'm in the Salesforce role of UX and enablement. And so the question is, Dynamic Forms has been around for 3 years now, and Salesforce is always improving these products as they come out. Our IT team pushed back pretty hard because the filters that they have to do on these, we probably have, 600 accounts that a sales rep can see if they see them all. There's probably 900 on the page. And what we want to do is make it, if the account type equals prospect, they see 60% of the page, because all these customer fields are irrelevant. And so I can share my screen. There's you will see the name of one of the great IT guys who's helping. But the question is, I have to be enabled, I think, to screen share, because he gave me his filter. So
Here,
let me know.
Hold on. I'll work on that.
Yeah, so the question is there no more efficient way to apply, like write the filter once and then click all the fields you want that filter to apply to, instead of having to key in the filter, X number of times? We definitely are trying to group customer fields into sections, so we can just write the filter for the whole section. But it's a lot of work for these guys, and anything we can do to make it better would be great, for sure.
I guess my question is why dynamic forms? Are there record types already in play? Are there what's the actual structure of the object before we go straight to dynamic form as the solution for it?
Yeah, well, we only have 2 record types for accounts, right? So we have a US, Canada, and an international, but the sales page layout is identical for all users. So what we want to do is I'm pushing for a global Salesforce experience for sales. So we don't act like a disjointed company, and we don't treat Germany completely different than the US. I'm Canadian, so I'm always trying to keep it global. And so it's relatively simple there. We haven't gone to crazy number of record types and so forth. So
are there?
I can't share. Okay, fair enough.
There you can. Go ahead.
Oh, I can now. Okay.
Did you? I couldn't find it, Joy.
Got it.
All right. So I just have to find where it is. Oh my gosh.
Because so while you're looking, I mean, I think it's
There.
important, just dynamic forms may be the solution, but
Right.
you've got to make sure, you've got to remember, dynamic forms is a visual representation versus
right.
what's going on at the data model level to potentially help solve some of these things. Like Joy and I were just having this conversation that I'm the old man sitting on his front porch, drinking his lemonade, wondering why the world has to keep changing because everything was just fine before we had all these new things. But that's not to say that the old man doesn't get his iPhone every so often. Just want to make sure that it isn't an opportunity to first look at the supporting data model before just going to Salesforce as a new visualization layer. Let's use that because you may still have underlying data model issues that you'll need to tackle at some
Yeah,
point.
we are definitely tackling those. What we're trying to get is a bit of a quick win for sales and respond to their need to have less noise.
Mhm.
And you know, so we will be doing that. But what I thought was this was Salesforce's solution to solving the issue of making, you know, a page layout more custom to the person who's looking at it and to solve the sales issue that we have.
Yes, but what they don't tell you, because it's hard for a lot of people, is that there's still Salesforce still at its core is a database, and there are still database best practices that need to be adhered to in order for these new tools to actually fully shine and be fully effective without incurring technical debt, without bearing the cost at the back end. So that's my caveat to it. So yes, I hear the quick win, just make absolutely sure that it doesn't become a cost rather than taking advantage of the opportunity to invest in the future. So
yeah, we are invested. I can't disclose, but let's
Right.
just say we've exceptionally invested in the last 2 years.
Right. No, I don't mean that. I mean investing in the time to keep your data model sound. We all know
We're very
licenses
much,
are
we have a
$1
whole
a
team,
piece.
a
Like
whole
that's
data strategy team. Yeah, we've done that too, but we have a whole data strategy team on that right now. But what I'm sharing is the current filter that Oscar and team have come up with, so that it's just sales and international sales that see the dynamic forms in play, and everyone else is just seeing what their normal field level visibility gives them on the page. And what his concern, which I think is completely valid, is and I didn't screenshot that part because I don't want to share too much of his information, is he has to write this filter on every single field that's a standalone field that we haven't included in a whole section that we can hide or show.
And what I see in that is record type plus profile equals page layout assignment, not a dynamic form.
Or even Lightning record page assignment activation.
Right.
Yeah.
Activation makes sense here.
But then you get into the eventually when when profiles are less of a thing, but
But they
Can you do it
aren't
by
less of a
permission
thing
set?
yet. They still are a driver.
well, yeah. The other thing that we've done is, I don't know if this is a great it's maybe slightly better than putting the filter on every field or every section, is I've got pages where it's like basically you make your main section, copy and paste it below. So you have a starting point, and then put that whole giant container and you write the filter once. So depending on which is true, it's like an A or B. I don't know if that fits your needs, but and then I have that in my case, I also then have it assigned to a specific app. That is because we have apps for individual business units.
Okay.
So this one of these variations, like this Lightning record page, gets assigned to that app for the business unit.
You mean like the sales or the sales console app or marketing or?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So ours is like, we have like a new business app. We've got a support app that they're custom apps that we've created. So we've done that. But like I said, and so, yeah, we've done that where we have one Lightning record page that is used in a couple different instances. It's just a whole section. So you've got your tabs at the top and the different field sections, and there's a whole one of those. And then there's a second whole one, and you toggle either one or the other.
Yeah, Yeah, so this, of course, is supposed to be going live November 16th, which is why we won't be able to fundamentally change the format, but that doesn't mean this is the solution forever. They have been sharing with me they don't feel this is a scalable solution, and I've been trying to push back because, of course, I represent sales and we just want this. But I understand we have to have the proper structure, which is why I'm tapping into this expert group, of course. So does anyone know about anything coming for dynamic forms? Like they must be like, lots of everything in Salesforce gets improved in terms of new functionality. Is there anything coming that might tap into making it easier?
I don't know if anything easier is coming, but I want to come back to the conversation a little bit because we were focusing on the profile, and I think you were concerned about the account type showing prospect information versus customer information, because the customer fields are wildly blank. And just like tidying up all that white space, while the account type or the account type of prospect has a lot of, like, it's been converted from a lead to a prospect, but you still have all this like empty customer information that's not filled out yet, right? And so
Right.
we're not talking about like a record type. We're not talking about a different object. We're talking about like the shell of a customer. And that's what we're trying to like hide a little bit.
Yeah, I've seen this in action in a dev org, and when they look at a prospect using these filters, it's much shorter, it's cleaner, it's exactly what we want. But so it does achieve. For some reason they just decided to focus on the customer. If the account type equals customer, then show all these fields.
Sure.
Sort of thing. But what they ran into was they had to do that 4 and 5 in the filter logic, so that dynamic forms didn't get applied to every single profile using the sales page assignment. So that, and I wanted to include pre-sales in the dynamic forms, and our lead development reps and our sales overlays, and they're not happy with the idea of adding yet 3 more profiles to this formula and then having to write this formula for 55 times or however many times it is. Actually, it's probably more than that. So I was just looking for, is there no way, that I don't know, that's why I'm asking if there wasn't another solution where, dynamic forms was greatly made much more efficient in terms of, field by field, having to add a filter like this, and just being able to just somehow flag them and group them and say, apply this filter to all these things I flagged, like a multi-select, if you will.
So you can do that with sections.
Yes, and that's and one of the things we're absolutely going to look at, was that Mike, is moving more customer only fields to a customer section. And in fact, this project is moving 2 fields into a non-customer section because we want them to show on a prospect page. So I think this is like a short-term fix, as I mentioned. I get it. We have a lot of work to do on the core data model and the strategy and the entire account page. We're just trying to give sales a really positive win after a very difficult Salesforce merger, where a whole half of the company lost the Salesforce they loved and used and had to use the other one, the one that we built for the other part of the company. So there's a lot going on.
And I may be crazy, but I think that the condition 2 and 3 are doing the same thing as condition 4 and 5.
Interesting.
So I think if you only need one of those.
Oh, okay. I will. I'll mention that to Oscar. He might listen to the recording.
I mean, if you're doing this 30 times, that would.
I think he's doing this like 300 times or so. Like, it's a lot. It's just insane amount of times.
I would go back to what Andrea said about like one container that gets the formula. Yes, make the formula more efficient too. Obviously, I'm on board with Mike. But if you, I mean, it may require a slightly more redesign of the whole page. But if you think about it in terms of, can we have fewer containers that need full dynamicness, then you can just do those. I agree, this is a workaround for while dynamic forms doesn't work that well, but it's available.
Okay. Is the feeling of the MVPs that dynamic forms sounded great, but in practice is not the solution we were sold? Like, I'm sort of getting that impression, possibly.
No, it is great. But the thing to follow up with what Michael said, that, what it does is it pushes, logic and processing from the server back to the client. So now when you load the page, you've got all these questions that come up of, do I see this section? Do I see that section? Do I see this field? Do I see that field? And by putting it at 300 or more fields, these conditions,
Yeah.
now as you load the page, the system has to automatically go through those different conditions before you can see the entire page. I mean, it takes milliseconds to do, but
Yeah.
the more fields you add and the more conditions you add, the more questions it has to ask before the user can see the entire page.
Yeah, and I probably way overstated the number of fields now that I think about the entire customer sections we're hiding. But that's a good point, Stuart, because moving from Classic to Lightning already slowed things down. And we just purged 2.1 million accounts out of our Salesforce to speed it up. We now have 780,000 accounts. It's still big, but yeah, it's a big org.
I think by bucketing or combining those dynamic questions, you're going to find it's very fast. It's easier to maintain. You're going to have less questions about why don't I see that field or this field? Well, we're going to put in buckets. We're going to put in sections, and then just do our questions based on this part of the page or that part of the page.
Okay, that's so helpful. And thank you all so much for your input. I really appreciate it. I've always gotten great advice from this group. And so I think, yeah, this is a Band-Aid, and we need to essentially fix the core underlying issues in page structure. And I think that's fair.
Jennifer, there was one comment that I don't know if you caught in the chat, but Linda mentioned, I don't know where your team is at as far as their skill set, but she mentioned that like it might be faster to do it in VS Code instead of on the interface.
Okay.
Linda, did you want to expand on that at all, or just let it roll?
Either way, I mean, but do it like once for one field and one section, and then find where that code exists in the XML so you can steal it, copy, paste it the other places that you need it without having to go through that fun little exercise with the manual way of doing it over and over again.
Well, that's excellent suggestion. Thank you. Yeah, we have a very large team at all levels working for us. Different skill sets, different skill levels for sure.
I mean, the only other thing I would throw out too is can you utilize tabs within the dynamic form to throw those fields for a customer in a different tab? Because the other thing, once you get into those filters, it is going to take longer for those pages to load for people. But if you can put them in tabs where they're not immediately loaded,
yes,
within the page, that might actually help improve some of that time.
That's good. Okay, I'm writing that down too. Thank you. All right, I'll stop sharing, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Taco says hi. This is great timing. Great timing. Let's see, who did we have next? I think we had Sarah, you popped in and you had some follow-up on your reactive screen flows from last time. Did I say someone else is going next before Sarah? All right, Sarah's gonna go.
Yeah. So the short answer is I'm using an unofficial SF component and it doesn't work well with the latest API version of Flow. Something in 59 broke that particular component when it happens to run into validation errors. So now I'm just sort of twiddling my thumbs waiting for a fix. I mean, I could probably dig into it if I wanted to, but I'm not that good at coding. So anyway.
So that's the big update.
Yeah, that's the big update is it was an API version issue, the new version of Flow. And it's a sort of a catch-22 because that's the one that works with the reactivity that I'm using for the display text. So I have to choose, do I want my pretty button or do I want my reactive display text? Such as life living on the bleeding edge of adoption. So there we go. But I wasn't It's a legitimate bug is the moral of the story, and that's kind of nice.
Okay. Okay. So that's all right. Stuart. Oh, Stuart, thank you. You're not hiding behind my chat anymore. So, Clayton, because Lizelle's not on the call. So Taco really has questions, but he doesn't know how to verbalize them. Clayton, you want to go ahead with your question?
Sure. Okay, I guess the first one, and I kind of littered some in through here, but the first one is, the good news is we've grown our sales force. It continues to grow usage and information in it. The bad news is I've been using data export just to export the files, and I'm starting to get quite a few files that I need to export and back up. And I know at one user group, we had some people come in and present software. And I guess I'm looking for any information you can give me on what is the best way to back up Salesforce and any products that are economical that you might suggest. I'm just open to anything you can give me.
What do you mean by economical? What's the scale?
I'm not even sure how to answer that.
So my 2 cents, all of the data backup tools that I have used have been priced off of the number of users in the org. And so they have like a pricing that reflects the size of the company. That said, I think a big requirement that is oftentimes not thought of is when they're doing their demos, which they inevitably will, ask them how hard it is to find a single record and go back in time a certain amount. A lot of things will rip your data out and store it for you, but finding the specific thing you want becomes a serious chore. Hopefully you have a data backup and you never need it, right? But that's a serious feature is actually going back and how hard or how easy is it to find that. I've used a handful of products. The only ones that I've ever bought, I bought something else as well. So it was like a package deal.
And I want to back up because I asked a question in chat, which is, before we talk about best, I just want to make sure we all understand what Salesforce backup means. And in my opinion, and this is just coming from a enterprise, I work at a financial services industry. It's an enterprise-wide industry. We talk about data, so we need to secure the data that is our clients' customers' data. The metadata, which is all of that setup stuff that's living inside of Salesforce. But also don't forget our developers. So what is the stuff that's being developed right now that if we went down today, that stuff that's being built right now in our sprint and our agile sprint stuff, we possibly might lose that stuff that's in our DevOps cycle. And then the fourth thing I think about is our integrations, that if we were to go down today, a lot of the integrations things, data that's being passed back and forth between Informatica and SAP and whatever other systems, Workday, is that going to go down as well? And what do we need to have in a backup situation for those integrations? And there are tools. I thank you, Michael, for posting a link to your article about how backup and restore works. But think about those things other than just, I want to back up my data or I want to export my data. If you just do that, you're not going to get everything.
Well, the good example of that was Pardot in 2019. So I don't know if anyone was a user back then.
There were ones before Pardot that were just as bad, if not worse. Thank you. But I'm going to throw out there too, consider what you need to be able to do with that backup. Do you have to be able to delete records out of the backup because you're subject to DPR and have right to forget issues. When you recover, which is the hardest part with these tools, is recovery. You know, if you're just doing the Salesforce backup, oh my God, I don't know how you're ever going to recover for stuff because it's a pain. You know, how do they do recovery? Do they do recovery by object? Can they bring in the related records with it, and how easily? And then do you really need a tool to do that, or do you have the skills to be able to do the relational of bringing things back? So, you know, if you want to go cheaper end, you can just back up your stuff through an integration into a hosted SQL server if you really needed to, and then find, you know, have code that helps you push it back. But you have to remember those relationships. As you push data back, it's going to have new IDs, and therefore those lookups are not going to be the same. So there's a lot to weigh in with that, and the pricing on the tools is quite varied when you look at it. I would really say, you know, what are our requirements for backup and recovery, not just for data, but for all the other things Stuart mentioned, because those are all important too. And then evaluate tools, you know, have a checklist and really evaluate the tools. If you can't tell, I've already been through that like 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I kind of knew about the data and the metadata, and, you know, great point about the integrations. And yeah, it's one thing to back it up, but when doing a restore, yeah, if I had to do something today, I don't know that I've got that skill set.
Well, and remember too that the biggest times you're going to need to restore are because of user error. Whether it's your error or another user's error, I accidentally deleted this record, or I accidentally ran this script that deleted a bunch of records, and I need to bring them back somehow. I mean, I can tell you, I spent an entire job where before I did big changes to data, I just backed up that particular set of data, and that's what they let me live on for a backup, other than, you know, the weekly run. But there have been other times where it just depends on the company, and I've been through several of those different tools because the company's requirements differ each time.
Does that help, Clayton?
Yeah, I think I got the deer in the headlight look, but that's, you know, I know too broad of a question to, but it's a starting point. I mean,
Your data is probably safe as long as there's no people touching it.
All right, Clayton, if that wraps you up, we're gonna move over to Monica.
okay.
All right, Monica, do you want to expand on your question? You want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, I'm a solo admin, and my executive director wanted us to get Salesforce because it was free. So I was able to get the 10 free licenses and put our data on there. And I'm, you know, keeping up with the release updates as much as I can. A lot of them, they're getting so complex, I don't really understand what they're saying, and I'm just letting them fly. If there's not something that requires an update, then I'm just, you know, like from the admin, then I'm just letting it fly. But so I'm starting to get emails from Salesforce about API updates, and June 1st, 2025, anything less than 30 is, I guess, not going to be maintained or could cause problems. And we don't have a lot of records. And right now, pretty much, I'm the only one who's using Salesforce, even though I've trained some people who don't log in. So I'm just now trying to think, okay, do I just, rather than spend the money to find a consultant to help us keep our Salesforce up to date, because I'm afraid it's going to get behind, should I just maybe try to get a free version of the nonprofit cloud, if there is one, and try to start learning it, and see if if it's better to spend that money to hire someone to just help us migrate our data?
I'm gonna let
You've
Michael
come to the
take
right
this one.
place.
Yeah, Michael, please.
We
Michael,
have
go.
opinions. We have opinions.
We have Michael.
You definitely don't want to go to nonprofit cloud yet. Let's just start there. Definitely too early. Definitely will cost you more money than even hiring someone to make sure you're up to date. So that's a big no. Let me just, if you put stuff in the chat before I joined late, so I didn't see the chat. you're saying your P10, 10 free licenses, are you on Nonprofit Success Pack?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's 2019 is when we got it.
Oh, so you're not even that old.
No.
So nothing's going to break. And if you haven't built, and I'm guessing you haven't built a lot of like flows and other things.
No, I haven't. And you know, I'm always weighing out, okay, how much time do I spend on this when I can't get them to use it? And, you know, I'm trying to encourage them, but man, it's tough.
I was where you are 8, 9 years ago, and now I'm here. So you could be me next, you know, in a few years. Your users will
Well, I
catch
mean,
on, things will get better, you'll learn more. We'll bring you into the fold. But you do not have to worry. Nothing you have is going to break. Nonprofit Success Pack is being maintained. There's nothing you need to manually roll forward in terms of APIs. You are fine.
Okay, well, that's good because I just did the ICU locales release update. And, you know, one of those steps is checking your API versions. And I think we had one, which is the NPSP homepage that was less than 44. So, I mean, I don't think there's a lot. I don't want to wait. With our budgeting, I've got to give her a heads up a year in advance, you know, the director, and I don't want to wait and then, you know, all hands on deck, you know, let's put out the fire. So just trying to stay ahead of it. So
you are absolutely doing the right thing. I think the next step for you, it sounds like you found office hours. That's a huge win. The next step for you is to get regularly involved in the nonprofit community, go to your local user groups, particularly if there's a nonprofit one. You just missed Nonprofit Dream and it ended yesterday, but next year. And you will start growing your skills and be able to keep this stuff up. And not to toot my own horn, but I have a blog all about your situation.
Mm-hmm. Did you do the one Free Like a Puppy? Is that yours?
Me.
Okay, so yeah, I'm reading that one and sharing it when someone's interested. So thank you so much. I'm getting a sigh of relief. Thanks for your assistance with this.
I'll just chime in. I'm a solo admin in a nonprofit. That's what I do. So I'm happy to connect with you. And if you have questions.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Yeah. So I know the experience too.
Aw, it warms my heart, you guys.
And whether you're at a nonprofit or not, I know that those emails come from Salesforce, a warning, threatening you that, oh, your APIs, we don't support anything below API 30 or whatever. And yep, do an inventory and see what you've got. But you know, the chances of your system going down because you have a managed package that's under 30 is pretty unlikely. I think the last one we saw was Action Plan, which was a Salesforce Labs managed package, is under 30. And it still works for as much as it's worth, even though it's not supported, the security doesn't work on it or anything. And, you know, I wouldn't worry too much about those threats.
Okay, so the next thing is just start learning nonprofit cloud, right? And following up on it so that we don't get left behind somehow.
You're not going to get left behind. There's so many of us.
You got time. You got time. You got time.
You just found your band of people. It'll be good. Be good, Monica.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Join the rest of us complaining about nonprofit cloud for the next 2 to 3 years, and then start.
We have one more question. We have one more question we might be able to get through. Rochelle, you sent an email through the group this morning regarding a question about a process flow based upon record type or profile. Rochelle, do you want to share or expand on that?
Sure. We have like a small group that does, basically it's a company within a company. And when I came here, they set this smaller company up in our org in a completely terrible way. Hopefully we can get a consultant in to figure out how to split the org apart. So like one thing I can't use duplicate rules and things like that because they're the same companies that do business with us. But my one issue that I have, and I think that just listening to everybody talk about record types and things, I'm thinking I might have actually come across a solution. This smaller company has to set up an account in a certain way, and I don't know, it's like basically there's a couple of rules. They have to put a parent account and stuff, and they just keep missing doing that. I think my easy fix on this is I'm gonna create a record type of an account page that looks and feels exactly like what they've used, except that having that field as a non-editable field and just fill it in for them. I don't have many users who have to be in this particular page, so I think this would work out pretty well. So I just listening to everybody talk and stuff, I'm sitting there like, why would I want to create a huge problem or a solution when somebody just can't flip and figure out that they need a parent account? So I think this might be my best bet. I was originally going to do the change on the based on profile, but I'm thinking that I might just do it on a record type.
Let me ask a clarifying question. Are you saying you would make 2 record types and assign only one to each of 2 profiles so that when they click new, they each have their own customized page layout?
Well, actually, pretty much 90% of our company would use the current record type for an account. It would be just this very, very small group, and there's only really, honestly, there's only 2 users in this group who create accounts. Based on their profile or their user, I'm going to have them pointed to that they are the only people that see this other record type to actually fill in.
That sounds totally reasonable to me, but what I'm also hearing is that the 90% should not be assigned the new record type and only be assigned the existing record type.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not a very sophisticated org. Like I said, it's only 2 users who can't seem to figure out how to create their own accounts the proper way. So I definitely need to split them out eventually. I've been talking about this for 2 years and it's been going on deaf ears. But we need to split this smaller company out of our org because it does cause a lot of headaches and there's a lot of workarounds. We got to do it the right way. But for right now, I think I'm gonna just create the record type, and that really basically came from you guys as you're talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. So I don't think we had anyone else lined up in the chat. Stuart, can you confirm or deny that? Or not at all? We have no idea. Did anyone else have any questions?
I had a question.
Oh, Stuart. I like the rainbow confetti. Don't take it away. What's wrong, Stuart? Come on.
It's on dynamic forms or dynamic pages.
Jacob
and-
threw it a wrench. Hold on a second.
Yep,
What
yep,
about
go ahead.
visibility to the records that get created?
Yeah, so you're creating record types when you have 2 different business units in there. It sounds like, are you separating visibility to those records or just allowing, just because I have a record type means I can create a record doesn't mean that other people can't see that record. So what's your visibility? What's your override settings for those records that are being created? Like, are you fine with both business units seeing that record?
The only people that the record type would be visible is the people who are involved in this smaller company.
Right, but
And I already have that created on their opportunity page because their opportunities are slightly different than the rest of the company.
Right, but if you're only assigning record types, that's just controlling the creation of the record. It's not controlling the visibility of the record. So somebody else, the other business unit, could see the records.
Yes, they could see it, but they can't. Yes, you're absolutely right. They can see it, and I can run reports and all that. But my issue is that I don't want to have people from the one company using that record type.
Gotcha.
So when they go in there and they create an account, we right now have, like I said, we're a small, rinky-dink little company. We only have 3 different types of record types. I'm just going to create another one for the account page for them.
Cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure you're fine with visibility of all the records being able to be seen by all.
Yes, they can see you all, but they can't use it. looky but don't touchy.
Have fun when you split that apart, because that's going to be a challenge if they've been utilizing that record for their own business needs.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate the input.
All right, Stuart, you have like 30 seconds, maybe. But we're
That's-
wrapping things up and I've got a meeting in a minute and 30 seconds.
That's
So
okay. We can wrap it up.
all right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you in a couple weeks and you know, we'll do this again. It's fun. It was fun today. Bye everybody. We'll see you later. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, you okay, Stu? Good. Good. Bye, everybody.